Hi guys, so here are my worked solutions for the question twos. As always, if you finish looking through this video and you're still not sure how to do it, that's totally fine. Just drop me a message and I can talk it through with you. So this first question, it's kind of checking in, I suppose, about how well you understand functions and in particular function notation. So the first question asks you to find the function value f of 1. So it's saying x is equal to 1. What is f of 1? So in that case, we're looking here. X is equal to 1. What is f of 1? Then our answer is this solution here. It equals 3. For g composed with f of 1, remember another way to write this is like this. So like f of x inside g of x. So essentially for us that would look like f of 1 and then whatever the outcome of that is then inside g of x. So we already know f of 1 is equal to 3. So now we want to calculate g of 3. So if we look over here, that's when x is equal to 3 and we want the moment what g of 3 is equal to, which is 5. And the final question is asking for g inverse of minus 2. So this is saying the output of g of x is minus 2. What was the input? And so instead of looking along the top row, we're actually going to look along this row and work out when was g of x equal to minus 2? Well, it was here. What was the x value when g of x was equal to minus 2? It's 1. The next question has a box and whisker plot. And first it asks us to find the interquartile range. Remember, the interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. And on a box plot, this value here is our Q3. And this value here is our Q1. So it's going to be 11 minus 4, which is 7. The next question says one student sent k text messages. K is greater than 11. It says given that k is an outlier, find the least value of k. So we're looking for a value in this region here, and we're wondering when will it be an outlier in that region. So our general formula for finding an outlier is we take 1.5 times the interquartile range, and then we either subtract it off the lower quartile, but that would give us an outlier in this direction, or we add it onto the upper quartile, and that's the one we want to look at today. So it's going to be Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. 1.5 times 7 is 10.5. So it's going to be 11 plus 10.5, which is 21.5. And so any number of text messages that's greater than 21.5 is going to be an outlier. Although, as we're talking about text messages, you can't have 0.5 of a text message. So that means the smallest value of k is going to be 22. We definitely want to round up because if it's under 21.5, it wouldn't be an outlier. Right, this next question shows us a diagram. It's got a function. It's showing the bounds between 1 and 2. And first it asks us for the indefinite integral of 6x squared minus 3x. You guys can definitely all do that. We increase our power on x by 1, so it's x to the power of 3. We divide by our new power, so 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then for the next part, it's going to be x squared 3 over 2, and it was a negative there. And I'm definitely not going to forget my plus c because this is an indefinite integral. After that, it then asks us for that region enclosed between x equals minus 1 and x equals 2. So that's when we now want to do our definite integration. So we can use the integral we did in the first part, but now we're going to put it in square brackets without the plus c. So 2x cubed minus 3 over 2x squared. and with the 2, the sort of most right value on the top of the bracket, and the 1 on the bottom of the bracket. Then I can substitute the 2 in and subtract the same thing with the 1 substituted in. So that's going to look like 2 times 2 to the power of 3 minus 3 over 2 times 2 squared, and then minus 2 times 1 to the power of 3 minus 3 over 2 times 1 squared. So that's 816 minus 4 divided by 2 is 2, 6 minus 2 minus 3 over 2. Definitely work out each bracket first before you do that subtraction. So it's going to be 10 minus 0.5, which is 9.5. There we go. Right, then we've got an arithmetic sequence. Have we already done 3? I feel like I've not done enough questions. Oh no, I just did them quickly. Right, carry on. So question number 4 says we've got an arithmetic sequence. The first term is 8 and the second term is 5. Find the common difference. Well, it's been reduced by 3 in that time, so my common difference is minus 3. Then it asks us to find the 10th term, which is U10. U10 is going to equal U1 plus 10 minus 1 times our common difference. So for us, our U1 was 8 plus 9 times minus 3. 9 times minus 3 is minus 27. 8 minus 27 is... 8 minus 7 is 1. 1 minus 20 is minus 19. There we go. And then it wants the sum of the first n terms. So that's S10. For this, we have got 2 formulas, but I think I'm going to use the formula which uses the first and last term because we've now got the last term. So that's going to be n over 2 times U1 plus U10. So that's 10 over 2 times 8 plus minus 19. 8 plus minus 19 is minus 11. So 5 times minus 11, which is minus 55. The final question is another functions question. The first one actually asks us to find the inverse function of f of x. Remember to do that. First we write it out as y equals 5x. Then we swap our x and y, so it's x equals 5y. And then we rearrange to get y equals again. So then that's going to be y equals x over 5. And then finally, it's just good practice to write that out in the right notation. So f inverse of x is x over 5. You might also have gone straight there. That's totally fine. The next question asks us to find f composed with g of 7. So that's like g of 7 inside f of x. So first we'll do g of 7, which is 7 squared plus 1. 7 squared plus 1 is 50. And then f of 50 is 5 times 50, which is 250. Right, now we're getting on to calculator questions. As with last time, I'm really sorry, I don't know a good way to show you what I'm typing into my calculator as I do it. And I also... There we go. No, that's fine. I think I've got my calculator working. But what I'll do is sort of write down and describe to you what I'm doing with my calculator if I'm doing something interesting. So this first question has a Venn diagram. It says we've got 35 students in total. It's talking about ones that take the art class, ones that take the music class, and 5 of them that don't take either. And it's shown all in a Venn diagram. It says write down the number of students in the group who take art class, and this circle here in the Venn diagram is discussing art class, and it's both regions of that, including the ones who also take music. So that means my total number of students who take art is 17. Then it says 1 student from the group is chosen at random. Find the probability that the student does not take art class. So that's the remaining students, this 13 and the 5, which is 18. So there's 18 students who don't take art class out of our total of 35 students. We could simplify that, but there's no need to. And then it says the student takes either art or music class, but not both. So if I want to colour in the region that's art or music, but I'm avoiding that place in the centre where they take both, it's those 2 yellow sections. So my number of students who take that is 11 plus 13, which is 24, out of our total of 35. Right, this is also a probability related question. It says a biased 4-sided dice is rolled and the following probability is given to each score, and it asks us to find the value of K. So in this case, something we know is it's certain that one of those 4 options will happen. So the total of all 4 of those numbers should equal 1. So that means if I add up what's already there, hang on a second, there we go. Sorry, I've got a syntax error on my calculator I need to delete first. It's been sat on the bottom of my school bag. I apologise for you having to listen to me delete lots of stuff off my calculator. Right, there we go. I think I'm ready to go now. So what I'm going to do is add together 0.28 and 0.15 and 0.3. And when I add those other ones together, I get 0.73. So I know 0.73 plus k is equal to 1. And then if I do 1 minus 0.73, that tells me that k is equal to 0.27. It then asks us to find the expected value, and I have a strong feeling I've mentioned this to you briefly when we looked at probability, but it was during distance learning, and it was a long time ago, so I can tell you again now, that's okay. To work out the expected value of a probability distribution like this, we do each outcome multiplied by its probability and then added together. So that's going to be 1 times 0.28 plus 2 times k, which is 0.27, plus 3 times 0.15, plus 4 times 0.3. And then I just need to use my calculator to do that. Be patient. So 0.28 plus 2 times 0.27 plus 3 times, 3 times 0.15 plus 4 times, I'm really terrible at using my calculator. Normally I get you guys to do it. Plus 4 times 0.3. There we go. I've got my expected value then as 2.47. I am just going to double check that with the solutions to make sure I've typed it into my calculator properly because we need it for the next bit. Yeah, that is the right answer. Perfect. So our expected value is 2.47, and that's almost kind of saying like on average when I roll this dice I'm going to get 2.47. I appreciate that doesn't make any sense because it's not possible to get 2.47 as you roll this dice, but that's kind of the feel of what the expected value is doing. It then says the dice is rolled 80 times. On how many times would you expect to obtain a 3? So in this case, we know 0.15 of the time we would expect to get a 3. So I can do 0.15 times 80, and that will give me my solution of 12. Question number 8 is, looks like a sine rule, cosine rule sort of question. So we've got this set up. I'm just going to double check that all of the information underneath here is on the diagram. It usually is, but it's worth checking. So AB is 11. Yeah, AB is 11. BC is 6. Yeah. BAD is 59. BAD, yeah. ADB is 100 and CBD is 82. Yeah, they're all on there. That's good. It's just worth checking in case you miss something really important. It's then asking us to find DB. So DB is this side length here. And as I take a look at that, I think I will use the sine rule to solve that problem because I've already got one pair of a side and its opposite angle. And I know the angle opposite my side, so I can use those together. I'm missing a side, so I'm going to put the sides on the top of the fractions, but to be honest, it's a calculator question, so it doesn't matter too much. So in that case, I've got x, my missing side, over sine of 59 is equal to 11 over sine of 100. And so my x is going to equal sine 59 times 11 over sine 100. Or you could have used nsolve for it. Either which way, though, if you type that into your calculator, you should end up with side dB equaling 9.57 centimetres. It then asks us to find DC. So let me just highlight that. We're looking for this side length here now. And in this case, I recognise that I need to use the cosine rule because it involves 3 sides. So by that I mean I know this side, I know this side, and I'm trying to find this side. And as soon as there are 3 sides involved, I definitely want to use the cosine rule. So just before I do use the cosine rule, I also need to work out how am I going to label up my sides here because it becomes really important in the cosine rule. So in this case, I know the angle opposite my missing side. So that means my missing side is going to be the same letter as the angle. So let's call it A. And then we can use the cosine rule, which is A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. And if I substitute that in, so the A squared is what I don't know. B squared can be 6 squared. C squared, you need to use not the rounded decimal answer from the previous question, but the unrounded solution you've got in your calculator. So that's going to be about 9.57429 squared minus 2 times 6 times 9.57429 times cos of 82. And finally, I can work that out, but I need to make sure I also square root it because that is equal to A squared. So A is going to equal to the square root of everything I've written above. I won't write it out again. And I'm cheating a little bit because I'm looking at the solutions. Please forgive me. But it saves you the time of listening to me type this into my calculator, so maybe it's better. A is equal to 10.5677. And then remember, we're going to round that to 3 significant figures. So it's going to equal 10.6 to 3 significant figures. Right, question number 9. Where is it? Here we go. It's another functions question. So for this question, it's giving us a complicated function, the kind of function you would never be expected to know much about without your calculator, but it is a calculator question. And then it asks us to find a few things about it. So the first thing it asks us to do is to find the x-intercept. And the way I'm going to deal with that is I am going to go to the graphing part of my calculator. I am going to type in that function, so 6x squared. Hang on a second, I've got my X on caps lock, which isn't going to do me any good. Let me just take that off. How do I do that? There we go. Cool. 6x squared minus 4 all over. Oh no, it's only got the 4 over it. Sorry guys, I just need to put some brackets around it. There we go. All over e to the power of x. Enter. There we go. So I've got my graph there and I'm looking for the x-intercept. And the way I can do that is menu, analyze graph. And the x-intercepts are the zeros. So I'm going to hit 0 and I'm going to say, okay, I'm interested between like a lower bound point just before where I can see the x-intercept and an upper bound point. And, well, I'm sorry, I've gone for the -1, which isn't right. Let me just show you why I say that isn't right. Because x is meant to be between 0 and 7. So I definitely want a positive solution to this. Let me try again. Menu, analyze graph, 0. And there we go. That looks like a better solution, which is now underneath the other one. There we go. So my solution is x is equal to 0.816. Perfect. It also then says the graph has a maximum at point A. Find the coordinates of A. I can see that visually on my graph, and I can go to menu, analyze graph, maximum, and again I put in my lower bound just to the left of the maximum point, my upper bound just to the right, and then it tells me that that coordinate for that maximum point is, let me find a good space to write it, 2.29, 2.78. It then asks me to sketch on the grid that graph. So the first thing I notice is asked me to show the graph just between x equals 0 and x equals 7. So I only want my graph to exist between those points. And if it goes past those points, I'm going to start losing marks. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm also just going to double check where my y-intercept is, because I think that's going to be a really valuable point to start off with. So I'm going to go to menu, trace, yeah, that'll work. And I can just take a look at that. So I can see it crosses the y-axis at -4. So as I'm sketching this, I know it goes through here. I know it crosses the x-axis roughly here. And I know there is a maximum point at 2.29, 2.78. So about here. And then I can see it appears to be sort of coming down for an asymptote at 0. So that's what I'm going to sketch in. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it should be the right general shape. So sort of coming up like this, then down, looking like it's coming down to an asymptote, and then I'll stop. And good practice actually is to just check that endpoint where the 7 is. I probably should have done that before I drew it. At least I can erase it on mine. So I'm just going to go along to about where 7 is. And yeah, so I've got 6.9. When x is 6.9, it's equal to 0.284. So yeah, that looks about right to me. Nice. Right, final question, last but not least. We have got some temperatures and some number of visitors, and it's for a park, 6 randomly selected days, and that information is displayed in a table. This question is about bivariate data, and it's asking us to find a regression line, and particularly those values of A and B. So what I need to do is I need to go into the spreadsheet part of my calculator, and I need to type in that information I've got. But before I do that, I'm going to label column A with something like temp, just so I can identify it later. So column A I'm calling temp. Column B I'm going to call numb, or maybe visitors, visit. visit, there we go, just so I can find them again, because it's important I understand which column is related to which. And then in the first column, I'm going to write down those first values. So 4, 5, 17, 31, 29, and 11. And then in the next column, I'm going to write down my visitor numbers. So 24, 26, 36, 38, 46, and 28. Now, this is the bit that's important. I'm going to go to Menu, Statistics, Stats Calculations, and here I have a couple of options. So I know this is 2 variable statistics, but actually I think it's better to, at this stage, go for the linear regression option. And we have 2 linear regression options, and I'm going to pick the first one because that looks most like the equation they've got there. So I'm looking at this equation here and I'm saying, you know, that looks most like mx plus b and not like a plus bx. So I won't pick that one, I'll pick the first option. It then asks me what my X list is, and I'm going to now open up that option and I can select temp, which makes it nice and easy because I know which one I'm looking for. And my Y list, I am going to select visits, so I know that it's the right one. It's asking me where to save the equation to. I don't really mind as long as I can find it. So there we go. I've now got all of that in there. It asked me to write down the values of A and B. So my A is equal to the M in my regression line equations. That's 0.667 to 3 significant figures. And B is equal to 22.2 to 3 significant figures. And R is equal to 0.923 to 3 significant figures. It then asks us to use that equation to estimate the number of visitors on the day when the maximum temperature is 15 degrees Celsius. So if I write out my equation, it's my number of visitors equals 0.667 times the temperature plus 22.2. And so if I work that out, I'm going to substitute in the value of 15. So it's going to be 0.667 times 15 plus 22.2. And that is 32.2214. But we're talking about a number of visitors, right? So it should be an integer value. So I'm going to round that to the nearest integer value, which is 32. So that is my final solution.